And welcome to In the Huddle, the Courier Times and the Intelligencer's weekly look at the upcoming high school football schedule. I'm Kevin Cooney. I'm the main football guy at the Bucks County Courier Times. This is Drew Markol.
I'm also doing football for the Intel, and looking forward to the start of the season on Friday.
A lot to talk about here as we get ready to start the season, and the first topic, obviously, is the new realignment within the Suburban 1 League. This year, instead of having schools classified by size, it's a geographic-based divisions. You're looking at William Tennant, where we are today. They have gone into the national conference with Pennsbury, Abington, and Neshaminy. Meanwhile, all the Central Bucks schools have been grouped together, and all the American Conference schools are pretty much the Montgomery County schools within the Suburban 1. And Drew, I don't know how you feel about the topic. I know I'm not in favor of it. How do you feel?
See, I am in favor of it. I like the fact that you're bringing back the old rivalries. You have the proximity. You've got North Penn playing Souderton. You know, you've always had pretty much the lower Bucks schools, you know, Neshaminy, Pennsbury, and Ben Salem, and those folks playing each other. But I like the fact that, you know, we're in a bad economy. Fuel costs a lot of money. You know, instead of taking these buses from one end of the county to the other, let's go across the street and play our neighbor.
See, my argument is that the competitive balance in a lot of these leagues is going to be thrown off. When you had Pennsbury and North Penn and Neshaminy in the same league in the National Conference, you had constant weeks where it felt like playoff atmosphere. I don't think you're going to get that in the new setup right now. If you look at Neshaminy and Pennsbury, they're going to probably go into their game on Halloween night, both at 9-0 if Neshaminy gets by Saturday this week. I just think that the competitive balance within these leagues is totally thrown off by this.
I disagree again. If you talk about that, though, most years those teams would be, if they're not 9-0, they're 8-1 because they lost to North Penn along the way. You know, it's just, it comes out in the wash at the end, and things now are so playoff driven that as far as, you know, let the regular season be the local teams and local rivalries. I don't have a problem with that at all. Let the playoffs decide, you know, who's best.
We'll get back to the playoffs in a second. Let's go ahead to topic number 2, and that is the Catholic League of the Philadelphia Catholic League, joining the PIAA in championship play for the first time this year after 84 years of autonomy. And a lot of people are looking forward to it. There are a lot of people who are against this move, thinking that they're the public and the difference between the public and the private schools is different. And Drew, I know we've talked about, you mentioned about state playoffs and everything. It seems to be geared towards that. I'm not sure you're in favor of this one, are you?
Absolutely not. Again, I'm just a dinosaur when it comes to these things. And I love the Catholic League. It was self-contained, and you know they won you had your championships, and that's meant a ton to those kids. And, you know, now it's gonna you know lessen a Catholic League title as these kids try to go for state titles. And to me, it just seems it was just unnecessary to do it. But
back, 5 years ago, there was not that much of an impact on football with their arrival from District 12. What kind of an impact do you see teams like St. Joe Prep, Wood, and West Catholic having in the playoffs, though?
I see them having a huge impact. I wouldn't be surprised if Prep, you know, makes a serious run, you know, just this year. I mean, they're kind of above, you know, the fray in the Catholic League. I'm sure they're going to love the fact that they can now play for a true PIAA championship. You know, it's the other schools I wish would kind of, you know, stayed where they were, but I think for a school like Prep, I'd look out. They're going to be good.
And West Catholic is the one team that I'm hearing a lot of buzz about. They play Prep real tough in a scrimmage. Double A is always tough because of the way the Western teams go, but I think West Catholic has a shot to win a Double A title. Speaking of the Catholic League, before we leave the Catholic League, Lansdale Catholic this year ends up in the Catholic League, moving out of the Pac-10. Jim Algio's group won a state title back in 2004 in Double A, and when you look at it, Drew, I think the one thing I'm interested in seeing is how those kids react to different competition that they haven't seen before. Some of it's going to be top-notch, and some of it, quite frankly, is not going to be that good.
No, and with LC this year, I mean, you know, you don't look at it in the finite terms, but it's not a vintage LC team. But I think for kids, it's just football. You know, they'll line up and play, and that's what they do. And you know, it's a chance to play some other schools, and I'm sure they're going to miss their rivalries, but hopefully they'll adapt as we go along.
LC, one of those teams that we'll have an eye on this year, and we'll start our conference breakdown back in the Suburban 1 League in the National Conference, and Pennsbury and Neshaminy are the two I think everybody is pretty much talking about. Pennsbury returns a lot of players along their line. They have a good running back in Jordan Lawless. They have Dante Devine, who I think is going to be the unheralded guy in this group. And they have Steve Mark, who's kind of going to be their tight end linebacker kind of guy. Drew, when you look at that, is that race between Neshaminy and Pennsbury, what do you see right now?
Well, again, I mean, it's for bragging rights between those two schools that go back forever. I wish that game were played on Thanksgiving, but that's all another story.
What's that?
Yeah, the PIAA saw to that. But, again, with the PIAA playoffs, you're going to have whoever wins that game, both are going to the playoffs anyway. So it's kind of lessened by the fact that you have districts and states, et cetera. Who's the best team? I don't know. Flip a coin. They're both always good. They're not going to get tested much during the season, and they'll both be looking forward to, playing each other at Neshaminy at the end of the year. And
Neshaminy has a lot of players along their lines back, but they're really, really lost a lot in their skill position players. Paul Carazola, the Rutgers signee, is their best player returning. He's their tight end. Will play a little bit of linebacker. How the rest of the pieces fit around him offensively, I think, is how Neshaminy season's going to go. In the Continental, Drew, North Penn and everybody else, or is there other contenders here?
I think that's fair to say. I mean, Souderton, North Penn laid it on them pretty good last year when they played. I believe it was 24-0. But Souderton, has built a nice program there. But it's North Penn. I mean, Dick Beck's got a loaded team again. He's got his quarterback back for the third year. Good secondary, and a good running back. He's got a lot of weapons, as always. His lines are a little shaky, but he always seems to find, a couple of 6'4", 250-pound kids to fill the holes.
It's strange because the formula for being a good team has always been you have great lines and build out with your skill position players. Beck has kind of done it in recent years, kind of the opposite. His lines have been okay, not great, but he's had all the skill position guys, hasn't he?
He has, but I think his lines don't get enough credit. He's had outstanding skill position players, and they get the headlines. Linemen don't get their names in the paper, and they never do, and they probably never will. But he's had the skill position players that they kind of complement one another. And with great skill players, you don't open as big of a hole either. You open a smaller hole, they can get through it. So, I think North Penn, they got a big game Friday with Liberty. We'll learn a lot about them the next couple of days.
And I think we'll learn a lot about Saturday and how they do on Friday night. And that leads us to what our games of the week are. And Drew, I know you're going up to North Penn and Liberty on Friday night. What other games are you interested in here as the week goes on?
Well, the Souderton-Neshaminy one is an interesting, to see two teams that are expected to make the playoffs. Souderton's, have apparently played Parkland very tough in a recent scrimmage, but you can't draw much from scrimmages. I mean, coaches like to do that, but that's hard to say. It'll be a good test for Souderton. Neshaminy comes there, and again, we'll learn a lot. And also, you have Wood going to Penridge, an interesting matchup of a team that's going to be in the Catholic League now. Wood has going to be in the PIAA now. Wood has built a very strong program, and Penridge has been down a bit, but. I like to see the end result of that one also.
See, I think Penridge is, to me, one of the most fascinating of the week. And the other one, really, if you look at it, I think Pennsbury has to come out and play Archbishop Ryan really tough this week. Only because Ryan has really pushed them in the past. Pennsbury's coming off a 4-6 season. Everybody's kind of talking to them as a possible district title contender. You need to set the tone in week one, and you really have to come out and kind of blow that game open. Ryan is not what they used to be. Ryan does not have 100 kids like they used to have. And Drew and I covered those glory days back with Ryan. It's not the same school. So you got to really take care of business if you're Pennsbury here. While we're here at William Tennant, we can take a look around at some of the beautiful new facilities here. They've done a massive renovation here to Claude Lodge Field. Brand new artificial turf, new stands. It's truly outstanding. And I guess it leads me to the question, Drew. What is your favorite facility to watch a high school football game in?
That's a pretty good question. I always, in this area, North Penn's a nice place to go see a game. I know you're a fan of going over to Neshaminy. I used to like Pennsbury because they didn't have lights. And I'm a traditionalist. And I like the Saturday afternoon football, but for me, almost any place to go see a game is great. And what they've done here, I mean, this place is just, it looks beautiful.
Yeah, traditionalist means you're old.
Yes, it does.
Old and stodgy.